do you think? Oh, I know y'all can hear me. I ain't got nothing to hide. Hey, thank you. But yeah. I know I don't mess with hot mics. Y'all not gonna catch me slipping. All right. I know I'm a little early. And I know it's 7:15, supposed to be 7 o'clock, but I wanted to give myself a cushion of time. And my wife and I share the office, and she had some class stuff. But anyway, I want to give myself a cushion of time to troubleshoot any problems. Shout out. I don't know. I guess I got to talk to these people because I was having some technical difficulties if you were watching me live. Anyway, this is my debut solo show on Black Power Media. Shout out to Black Power Media. I've been a follower of Black Power Media since its inception, and I'm very happy to get an honor to get the invite to co-host Dr. Ball, Geechee's show, and I'm a co-host of that show. And now this is my show, which I'm, networking a name for. I'm kind of calling it Cream with Bro.Diallo. Caucasians rule everything around me, but that's just kind of out there. But anyway, this is Bro.Diallo on Black Power Media official. Not really official because I've been on the Earn Your Liberation show for several weeks, several months now. So I've been here, and I'm very happy to contribute and help build the Black Power Media thing. So anyway, you might have noticed like a few weeks ago there was a lot of glitch, and I was having audio issues, video issues, and I've had people reach out to me to group in particular, so I'm getting help. Shout out to my supporters, my listeners, man. Y'all really hold a brother down, and I'm very happy with some of the results, and I've still got more equipment and support coming through. Technical support and equipment contributed to the effort. So all that to say is thank you, and I'm very happy to be on Black Power Media, and I'm very happy that the community came together to help me out with some of my technical difficulties, many of which were my own fault, messing around during Christmas, and jacked up some of my software and hardware. But anyway, I'm back, and I'm coming back even stronger. So this is the Bro.Diallo broadcast on Black Power Media, Cream, Caucasians Rule Everything Around Me. And my debut show is Class Enemies, Wannabes, and Groupies. And of course, Wednesday night is also live Q&A, which I enjoy doing, engaging directly with questions, comments, and criticisms from my listeners. If you know me from the local radio here at Q4 Radio in Chicago, and my Monday morning radio show, which is still in effect. So you still, if you need your Monday morning commute, if you're not getting to work, if you don't have enough stress on Monday mornings, if you're not miserable enough to be heading to work on an early Monday morning, and you need that Monday morning misery, tune into the Bro.Diallo radio broadcast, Q4, and of course at Diallo Kenyatta. And Black Power Media has kind of like a Wu-Tang setup, so you can contribute to the collective of Black Power Media, but you can still do your own thing on the side. So we kind of like the Wu-Tang of progressive radical Black media, and I don't know which. I would like to imagine that I am the method man of Black Power Media, since we're running with that Wu-Tang alliance. But everything's clear. So if there are any other questions, direct them to Jared or Franklin or Kalunji and the rest of them, because I don't know nothing about nothing. I'm just a talent. I'm just the pretty face that's out front. As far as the backroom stuff, y'all holler at them, because I don't have no more information than what I've given y'all. So now let's jump in with both feet. We're going to discuss some issues related to class enemies, wannabes, and groupies. And then we're going to open up for discussion, hopefully consistent with the topic. But any other comments or criticisms related to that, I might even share the link so that y'all can come in live, or you can type in your questions via the YouTube feed. Either way, And I think I should give prominence to, there's some weird little squiggly line, like the people with the green things. I'll give, you know, uh, prominence to them, but everybody get to ask, everybody jump in. So welcome, thank you. You can find me at Diallo Kenyatta across all platforms, and now also at Black Power Media. So, and we'll be here generally Wednesday evening, but I also have some more content, taped and edited content that I would like to share on the Black Power Media, because I definitely love some Black Power. And I hate how Black Power has been distorted over the decades. About we don't even know what Black Power is supposed to be, which is what I'm going to kind of talk about. So anyway, I appreciate everybody. And since we have no difficulties, everyone can hear me. The video seems to be working well. So let's get down with the get down. And if you have any issues, just let me know in the feed. Let me just go and lower the volume, and then we can get started. That was a really good intro, if I don't say so myself. Anyway, thank you for joining me this evening. Today, I want to talk about class enemies, wannabes, and groupies. And let me tell you why I got an issue. And there's a difference between a class enemies, wannabes, and groupies, but I've been having issues with them for the longest. And I've been called some names, and I've been called relatively new names, things that I've never been said. Like in the last week, I've been called an elder, and it's weird being called an elder, because I don't really feel like an elder. To me, it seems like just yesterday I was windmilling on cardboard boxes in the projects. But time, man, it's a bastard. It keeps going. It don't wait for nobody. So I've been called an elder, and I've been called a gatekeeper. Now, I accept the elder out of respect. There are some people that respect me as an elder. And if people see me that way and look up to me that way, I am dignified, and I will do everything in my power to carry that forward. But I also been called a gatekeeper, and I can't run with that. And not that I don't want to be a gatekeeper, and I've even had like some prominent people say that I'm gatekeeping. So they accused me of attempting to gatekeep, and they've called me in a disparaging way a gatekeeper. And I wish I was. Boy, y'all don't know. Because if I was a gatekeeper, I definitely would hold that down. I would take it and run with it. I would not deny it. I would not run for it. And I would exercise it with impunity. I mean, everybody, man, most of y'all get pushed out the gate. Some of y'all have to go around, get out the gate, and reapply to get back in the gate. I'm with gatekeeping. I think that our struggle, our community should be an exclusive place, not necessarily elite in the terms that we understand it by European standards, but there should be African standards for acceptance. I believe in standards, protocols, and consequences. Call it cancellation, call it hateration, but I do think that having status within our struggle, within our community, within our movement should be something that should be hard to earn and easy to lose. We got way too many leaders for life and too many unworthy people in statuses of influence, not just within the Black Power movement or Black liberation struggle, but within the larger Black community as a whole. So yeah, I wish the blood clot I was a gatekeeper. But moving on from that, here's something interesting, which has kind of messed with me. It's really been messing with me. And it's this whole concept of snitching and what snitching is and what snitching ain't. And I've been pushed on both sides. I just had one of my longtime followers accuse me of wanting to allow people to rampage in our community because I said that running to the cops will not solve our problems. But I also said this no snitching code has been corrupted and degraded. I understand the no snitching concept goes all the way back to the plantation, where it was understood that when the authority, the people who have authority over you, when the establishment is corrupt, then your obligation as a citizen, as a subordinate, as a subject to unjust power, relieves you of the obligation that unjust power holds over you. So, and this ain't just Black people. This didn't even start. White folks said this. If you go back to Jean-Jacques Rousseau and these other European philosophers they call the political science canon, they have this thing called the social contract. And the social contract consisted of the obligation of the state, the obligation of the ministers, the obligations of the oligarchs, the obligations of the monarchs, the obligations of the clergy and the leadership of the religious and other institutions of power, the obligations that they had to the citizens. And if the citizens did not receive or did not see that their leaders, their oppressors, their overlords did not honor the social contract, then the citizens had a right to rebel, to overthrow, even in the Constitution. Even pedophile, rapist, murderous, genocidal founding fathers of America understood and embraced the concept that, and this has come around recently, that from time to time, the tree of liberty must be watered with the blood of tyrants, meaning that the violent resistance, violent overthrow, the violent ousting of oppressive institutions are justified in order to preserve the liberty of the people. So when we understand those concepts, and when we understand that Black people have never had just governance, have never had our full citizenship, our full human rights acknowledged or protected by the state, by local, regional, national, federal government, our rebellion is justified. Our resentment is justified. Our uprisings and burning of cities is fully justified, not just by Black rage, not just by Black radical thought, but they embedded in their own political philosophies, in their own ideologies that they taught to me in their universities. I had to read these motherfuckers. I had to go read all these old dusty white men, and just, you got to know how annoying it is to read about the French Revolution, liberté, fraternité, to read about all these white men talking about freedom, read about Thomas Jefferson, to read Woodrow Wilson, the consummate statesmen, these bloodthirsty monsters in petticoats, these bloodthirsty monsters speaking so articulately about freedom and liberation, you know? And I'm like, goddamn, they know they doing it wrong. They know it. So anyway, when I talk about the state, I had a Black person or a person who is leftist come to me and say, well, Bro.Diallo, you want to just have people in the streets that are harming other people, because I said, and I stand by, there are no solutions. And not even talking about the wider struggle, but there are no solutions embedded within the policing agencies, the government, state controlled policing agencies for Black people, which that person interpreted it as me saying that criminals should be allowed to act with impunity within the Black community, which is not what I said. I just said, I don't think the criminals should be allowed to act with impunity within the community, but the policing agencies, sheriffs, police, state, regional, like the KBI, Kansas Bureau of Investigation, Illinois Bureau, or the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the various policing and investigation agencies, the law enforcement infrastructure, the justice system has no solutions for us. And they're not interested in solving the problems. I'll say this is one of my mantras. Capitalism has no interest in solving problems. They only seek to profit from problems. And we just have Black people. If policing led to a reduction in the harm imposed on our communities, the Black communities would be the safest communities in all of the United States, because no other communities receive the amount of policing, the amount of surveillance, the amount of state punishments, imposed sentences. If policing translated into safety, then our communities would be the safest. So we're getting it from both sides. We're getting all the liabilities of policing, and none of the stated or projected benefits of policing. And me calling that out, someone said that I was advocating for Black people just being murdered without consequence. But then I've had other people tell me that I support snitching because I didn't understand the snitching. I understand it, but I was very resentful that these race traders had co-opted the no-snitching code. Because as I told you, the social contract for African people has never been honored. Therefore, our obligation to the state does not exist. So it's always been a cat and mouse relationship between African people and the state. Black people, in order to survive, in order to sustain ourselves, in order to navigate, in order to live dignified lives, by and large, have to circumvent the state, subvert the state, challenge the state, undermine the state, ignore the state. If Black people in this country had remained lawful, if Black people had conducted ourselves as lawful citizens by the majority in the United States, we would not only still be in chattel slavery, or let's pretend like the Emancipation Project, we would definitely still be within Jim Crow, because we had to break the law to escape slavery. We had to break the law to escape Jim Crow. We had to take the law into our own hands to fight off white vigilantes. We often had to take on a less grand scale, on a person-to-person scale, many times. Our ancestors and our brother have to break the law in order to feed ourselves, house ourselves. And as Mos Def said, when we start keeping pace, they change up the tempo. So even lawful Black people have had their progress, their lawful progress, impeded or reversed based on the signing of a piece of paper. As Jared Ball researched, Black Wall Street was not destroyed by illegal atrocities committed by white citizens. Black Wall Street was ultimately destroyed by lawful policies. So anyway, understanding all that, Black people had a no-snitch policy. And if you go back and read the literature, if you go back and read the Jim Crow era Black literature, there was a lot of talk about folk figures. If you read books like, there's just so many of them, Native Sons or Black Boy, which my son is reading. He went and dug that book off the shelf. If you read books talking about Black people of that era, they're often in the white people, Native Son is another one, talk about you can't trust Black people. When they barred Black people from being on juries, when they barred Black people from giving testimonies, there was this understanding by the white majority, the white oppressors, that if a Black person is called in to give testimony, they're going to lie for the other Black. Even when I was a kid in the 80s, this was still a very strong stereotype that you can't trust Black people. We were untrustworthy. We weren't respectful of the law. We didn't respect the law. And we were more than willing to lie. But to quote Dusty Smith, when white people, every accusation they make against others is a confession. Every accusation is a confession, psychological projection. So everything whites, all these stereotypes whites imposed on us, they're rapists, they're thieving, they're no account lazy, it pretty much is a confession. Even when they talk about safe spaces and cancel culture, they're going to ignore that they had a whole McCarthy hearing, that they were taking away people's entire careers. Cancellation. Every time a conservative says anything about cancellation, I smack them in the face with McCarthy and tell them to get out of my face. But that's a whole nother topic. But anyway, Black people had the impression that they knew you have to kind of take what black people say with a grain of salt when they are engaged with the state, when they are engaged with officials, institutions of power, because black people was like, they ain't for us. The government ain't for us. Or as Professor William Mackey's mother, Professor William Mackey's grandmother would tell him when he was a child, the bugger got no shame. These people were shameless hypocrites. Shameless hypocrites. So we don't owe them shit, and we ain't getting shit from them, and we should give them as little as possible, even though we have this grand power dynamic. So anyway, the no snitching code originally was about resistance to and navigation to oppressive systems. So if you're on a plantation and you know somebody's in there and they stealing seeds, you can steal from an enslaver. Someone's getting a little on the side, you keep your mouth shut. You tend to your business. You don't look side to side. You look forward. You tend to your business. That was how we dealt and how we navigated being under unlawful laws. I don't tell on you, you don't tell on me. And even back then, and when black people started to organize for a resistance, Harriet Tubman come round. You might want to run off with her. You might choose to stay behind. The risk was too great. But one thing you know you don't do, you don't tell. Nothing. I ain't seen nothing. I ain't heard nothing to this day. Racists have memes. If you ever go to the 4chan, 8chan, or the other racist websites, go to Twitter now, which is a right-wing racist site. And they had this thing, didn't do nothing. And y'all forgave that rapper. Who's that girl? I'm a cow. Bitch, I'm a cow. I'm a cowgirl. Just as racist and anti-black as she could be. And y'all let her come back. She went and got some black dude, dark-skinned black actor, and used him as a prop in her video. And y'all all was forgiven. When she showed utter disdain, Doja Cat, thank you. Or should I? I don't even want to thank you. I don't want to. Y'all believe words and vibrations have power. So I don't even want to give her power. That's nonsense. But yeah, Doja Cat. Y'all forgave Doja Cat is in. That's why I wish I could rhyme. If I could rap, I'd just be shitting on black people. Because all I got to do is drop a song. You know, I just can't rap. That's why I have to stay loyal to black people. I got to stay down in the struggle. Because if I get on the outs with the black community, I'll never get back in. Because I can't rap. And I can't sing. You know, R. Kelly molesting black kids. And can you just save me? I believe I can fly. And y'all were like, okay, R. Kelly. I bet you R. Kelly's in his cell right now, working on a hot tune. Doja is confused. She's not confused. Doja is not confused. We got to stop pretending like people hating us because by accident. Oops, I didn't mean to be hateful of black people. Oopsie. Doja was very deliberate and very consistent. And then when she got called out in order to preserve her career and preserve the revenues, she flipped. We got to stop being so compassionate. People hate us. We got to hate them back more. We got to make it extremely uncomfortable and expensive to fuck with black people. Right now, it's profitable and comfortable. But I digress. Where was I? Oh, so I'm talking about the snitching shit. Anyway, people snitching. Snitching used to be a radical concept. Snitching used to be black people, if you have some means of circumventing the legitimate authority, undermining legitimate authority, confronting and challenging legitimate authority, or working in the background to get what you need, trying to secure things that the system wishes to deny you. If we don't join you, we don't support you, at the very least, the lowest level of solidarity a black person could show is not run to the massa, not run to the oppressor, not run to the enemy in order to tell. I was brought up this way. I was brought up not by radicals. I was brought up by black Christians. Hog maw, chitlin. I've had hog maws. I've had chitlins. I've had scrapple. I've had head cheese. I grew up Midwestern, by way of the South, by way of the West Coast plantations. And I was raised by black people who would literally be offended if you called them African. I ain't no African. But these black people who were not politically radical, ideologically radical, who were not African-centered in their point of view, they would tell you they were patriotic Americans. Them black people told me my whole life, you don't talk to police. And it wasn't just police. They said when you go to school, you don't tell the teacher what's happening in your house. You don't tell the principal none of our business. Because the teacher and the principals, who did they talk to? The social worker. And who did the social worker talk to? The police. And I don't know about y'all, I grew up in Section 8 housing. I grew up in Section 8 housing projects. And if somebody needed a place to stay, they come stay with you, you could get put out on the street. If your sister babysitting, braiding hair, making a little extra money, you get put out on the street. If you got a little candy hustle, you selling candy, you selling school supplies, they put you out on the street. So I said, you don't talk to school. You don't tell nobody your business. We lived in a housing projects where less than a square mile of land, there was over 1,000 people. They packed us all in. So everybody knew everybody's business, but everybody outside the community didn't know nothing. None of their business. We'd be out water hose and in the hydrant, spraying the hydrant. We'd be out, like I said, trying to windmill on cardboard boxes. Police come through, everybody get quiet. Everybody stare. As soon as the cops roll through the projects, we go back to our business. And that wasn't because we were engaged in criminal activity. We stayed away from the police because the police were unlawful, not because we were. But now today, there has never been a formal announcement that the no snitching or no snitch code was the arena of those who prey on the black community. It was understood that in your insidious, in your rebellious behavior, in your illegal or extra legal activity, it was a given that you didn't prey on other black people. Because by and large, other black people didn't really have shit. And there was another caveat. When I was growing up, whenever somebody would do some really out-of-pocket shit, the saying was, you better hope the police get to him before the hood gets to him. There was just some other guy that committed assault on a sister, and her family got to the man. They knew who the man was, but the family got to him before the police did. And there was an understanding in my community, the hood justice was more severe and more rapid than the legal system justice. But as in all things in the post-integration, post-civil rights era, it got warped. And no snitching went from protecting rebels. It went from protecting radicals. It went from protecting each other from an oppressive state to protecting predators who prey upon our community. Now it becomes the exclusive arena of gangsters and organized predatory formations targeting and harming other black people. And then they get this fake rhetoric about, oh, no, that's only when one criminal goes against another. And it don't take nothing but 2 seconds on any search engine to find out that this no snitching thing is not limited to people engaged in criminal activity. There have been mothers, there have been children, ages of 9 and 6, who were witness and have been murdered, silenced, kidnapped, because as witnesses to atrocities. And so now the black community is between a rock and a hard place. We have a justified and reasonable resistance to engage with or support the police. And we have predatory elements within our community that take advantage of that isolation. And black community is not unique in this. In most destabilized, colonized areas, whether it's South Africa, whether it's Venezuela, Mexico, wherever you look and you see these colonial conditions, these neo-colonial conditions, you find this same dilemma. The same dilemma. There's a book I'm working on a report on that I just read called Locking Up Our Own. And there's another book called Black on Black Violence, the psychodynamics of Black self-annihilations in service to white supremacy by Dr. Amos Wilson. And I have a report on that on the Diallo Kenyatta YouTube. So we're in this, but there's a new thing else. There is a whole propaganda network, a whole industry, an entire genre of Black music that promotes this predatory behavior, right? So we have millionaire Blacks who are rapping, these rappers, and even R&B artists now, that are promoting this warping, this capture. You know, there's this concept in political science called agency capture. And it's when you have an agency that exists to regulate or to control or to direct something, and the very thing that it is meant to oversee overtakes it. So no snitching went from something to protect resistance to the system to something that makes us even more vulnerable to the system. So it has been captured and corrupted. And what's weird about that, and let me tell you about these motherfuckers. What really got me thinking about this is Dr. Dre, because the snitching only extends to preying upon Black people. Snitching only extends to preying upon poor and working class Black people. You'll notice Young Dolph, Nipsey Hussle, and many other prominent Black people with status and riches, when they become victims, the no snitch code goes out the window. Let's look at the Nipsey Hussle case. There were several people there. Nipsey was a Crip. He had a Crip funeral. And he was killed while, at the very least, holding down the streets. And I didn't hear one prominent rapper go against those or say, well, don't nobody talk. Shh, remember that? Shh, no snitches. Snitches get. I didn't hear any rhetoric about not snitching in the case. What's that kid? XXX Tentacion. Didn't hear any rhetoric. But when prominent, wealthy Blacks are captured or incarcerated or investigated for preying on working class and poor Black people, non-famous, non-wealthy Blacks, that's when they start talking, oh, who's snitching, who not snitching? That's when you get banned, you no-fly list. Just look at the trends. Every time a prominent Black person, PNB Rock, you have people like Snoop Dogg, Funkmaster Flex, Boosie, Badass. You just run down the list. They say, what's wrong with the Black community? You had, what's that guy's name? Drink Champs, N-O-R-E. I think after Nipsey's murder, he said that he was no longer going to go to the hood or support the hood or make any contributions to the hood, to the streets, because we're unworthy. Like Jay-Z told us, their presence is charity. The fact that they acknowledge that we exist, let alone the turkeys or the whatever other donations, tax deductible support they give to the hood. Many rappers say, I don't go back to the hood. But you still extract from the hood. I don't give back, because the hoods hate us. The hood jealous of us. The streets is jealous of us. And what's wrong with us? We need to check ourselves. They have all this introspection. But understood, across this country, on average, about 30 Black people are murdered by gun violence in the United States a day. And for every one Black person that is shot and killed, There are more than 3 black people who are shot and survived, who had the physical trauma and the psychological trauma. And for every individual that is shot and survived and injured for life, scarred for life, mentally and physically, for every individual that is killed, there are literally dozens of African people that it ripples through. My oldest brother is a quadriplegic. And he was in the streets, he was in the gangs, and he was shot by a member of his own group. Paralyzed from the neck down. And when but he wasn't rich. He could rap actually, but he wasn't famous. He wasn't rich. And there were no rappers coming online to talk about what's wrong with us. No introspection, no reflection, no solemn post. These rappers are our class enemies. Right? But here's something weird to me. Now, maybe y'all think I'm stretching because I don't understand, because you say you don't snitch, you don't cooperate, you don't tell when poor black people get killed. But these same people, I have posted some song. I was talking about Ice Cube's contract with Black America. Ice Cube trying to run a scam on the black community, yet another scam. And I was hating on Ice Cube, justified hatred on Ice Cube. And somebody jumped in and I had played an excerpt from Ice Cube's songs, because Ice Cube had this song called I Ain't the One, where he's talking about how these poor black girls can't play him. And then I played, because I was talking about how the Trump administration literally used, pimped, and played Ice Cube like a hoe. And Ice Cube had to literally go on a PR campaign to recover his reputation. After Trump's son came out and was like, yeah, we're talking to Ice Cube, and literally used Ice Cube as a campaign mascot for his re-election. Now, it wasn't successful, but I'm like, I thought Ice Cube understood how not to get played, right? So it was, and I played like 14 seconds, like 3 lines of a song just to say how Ice Cube talks this shit, but he's a hoe in this situation. How, you know, he call our sisters, black women, hoes. But now he getting played like a hoe and falling for the very trap that he claimed he was immune to when it came to getting played. When you go play the song yourself, I Ain't the One. But my video got ripped down. So somebody was copyright strike. And I'm like, is that snitching? Flow Rider, let me show y'all this. If this don't, Flow Rider just won a case and just got $82 million. Now, I know he's not a gangster, or at least I don't know. I can't tell you none of his songs. But, I mean, he looked like Tekashi sitting there. Look at this. You see a hand up, you know, taking the oath. And there was one picture of him in court telling. Now, this telling, corporate snitching. So, and I haven't heard, he makes party music, but he's in the hip hop industry, right? And so they say Tekashi 6ix9ine, when he told about black people being murdered, distribution of drugs in the black community, kidnapping and assaults, criminal activities that were isolated to the black community and target the black community, he went and told. Not out of love or solidarity, but to save his own neck. And he was literally canceled from going on the air. Funk Master Flex said, I will never play his music again. And then Gunner, who was with YSL, he didn't tell, but he told. And when Gunner got out and told, Funk Master Flex said, this snitching, nobody's holding to the snitching code. And it's funny that if you are a performer or an artist and you want to copyright, and which is snitching, I don't give a shit. Copyright is snitching. Going through the legal system is snitching. And if you go and say, well, hey, he took my shit and I'm going to go and get my trademark, my copyright, and I'm going to go through the courts to get justice. Snitching is snitching. And I don't understand the distinction. Now, some of y'all understand it. It's comprehensible to you. It's understandable. Dr. Dre snitched on Marjorie Taylor Greene. And maybe Flo Rida is immune, but I'm pretty sure if Flo Rida was performing and he saw another rapper shoot somebody in the audience, and he went to court and said, yeah, I saw that guy shot that guy. And you mean to tell me if Flo Rida saw a drive-by and went to court and was like, well, I'm not a gangster, so I get to tell. And let's take Flo Rida out of this. Is Dr. Dre a gangster? He literally said, I am the godfather of gangster rap. You know, and so my point is, the only people that are subjected to, the only way to lose credentials, to lose status as a rapper, as a public figure within this era, is if you cooperate with the establishment and the victim is poor, obscure Black person. If you are a poor, obscure Black person and any public figure speaks to any injustice you suffer, regardless of whether you're an innocent victim or you are a participant, then that's snitching, that's bullshit. But if you run to the court for any other reason, property dispute, trademark, contract dispute, then it's okay. You can go through the legal system. You can fully cooperate. You can give signed public testimony. To me, if these rappers are going to say trademark, copyright, publishing, contract negotiation, I can fully cooperate with the state. But Black blood runs in the streets, and it's got to be shh. Black people dying, Black people suffering, shh. And here we are, Black people, the targets, family members, relatives. You know, I had a friend I grew up with, known him since I was like in the 3rd grade. And he told me he got locked up. He got a felony conviction. Barely did a year, did less than a year. They just wanted to put a felony on his record. They didn't even care about how long they kept him. They just knew once you got a felony, you belong to us. New Jim Crow. And he said, you know, growing up, my whole life, I felt like I was going to go to jail. And so whenever I was motivated to play sports or motivated to do anything, I'm thinking, what's the point? I could get locked up. And so then he eventually got locked up. And then he's like, now I think I can live my life. And he did it. It was weird. He went and got his college degree. He went and started a little business. He went and started a family after he got locked up, because he was like, I'm going to get locked up. And once I cross that threshold, then I can start living life. So the shit is weird. These rappers talk no snitching. But whenever it's to protect their status, their money, their income, they will cooperate. Proper authorities, proper paperwork, proper testimony, full legal protections. But when it comes to the death and blood, these people are not anti-state. They are not anti-law. They are not anti-police. They are not anti-system. Most of them got retired and off-duty cops on their payroll. The no snitching rules only apply to the slaughter going on in poor Black communities. And here we are, poor Black masses, playing along with this game, keeping it gangster. And so if a Black dude runs to the police or runs to the courts or runs to the authority or runs to the state and says, I saw somebody kill a Black man, kill a Black woman, you a snitch. Your career is over. But if you run to the state for anything else, literally any other offense that is not about targeting, exploiting, and preying upon poor and working class Black people, tell me another snitching scenario that could get a public figure in trouble. They can put on ties. Dr. Dre can go and call the authorities, call the federal, state, local authorities and to represent him. And tell me what's the difference, because some of y'all seem to understand there's some type of difference between going to the authorities for your finances, for your personal financial protection, but going to the authorities for the protection of Black lives It's some bitch shit. It's some hoe shit. It's some snitch shit. And I hope that some of y'all explain this to me because I don't understand it. I don't understand it. So we can bar 6ix9ine and Gunner from being played in the club because they snitched about an organization preying upon poor black people. And if you know anything about Atlanta, I'll be in Atlanta in a couple of months. I'm not a fan of Atlanta. I know T.I. told y'all it's Wakanda, but in a country like the United States, it has the highest level of income inequality, which means you got some of the most affluent, wealthy black people in the world living in Atlanta, on top of some of the poorest black people in this country. And there has been no translation. And I have some good friends that moved to Atlanta. It's like, it's beautiful. I got a black doctor. I got a black accountant. I had a black real estate agent that helped me buy some black property. And I went to a black car dealer to get a black luxury car, blacker than black. My black child went to a black college with a black professors and black presidents. And all this magnificent blackness, Wakanda quality blackness, according to T.I., on top of some of the most entrenched black poverty, displacement, and dysfunction. Because my thing is, the moment you say stop snitching, that means you don't run to the state for shit. And I know some people that keep it a buck. You shoot at them, you rob them, you damage their property, they ain't going to the state for shit. They coming to you. They gonna handle it. I remember when my brother was shot and his shooter was apprehended. And some people I was talking to, I was on the phone back and forth. And some people I talked to were very upset that this person was apprehended. They're extremely mourning the loss of the opportunity. But at the same time, if them people put out some music or put some art up and you went and copied and pasted, they wouldn't go. They didn't have no copyright trademark. So it's very funny that the black elites can run to the state to protect their wealth and status. At the same time, they're putting out materials and putting out art telling us that if we go to the state to protect our meager status, to protect our lives. And I'm not a fan of the state. I just started off, but I'm also not a fan of that contradiction. I'm not a fan of black capitalists. I'm not a fan of black elites. So anyway, I'm going to go into this class enemies thing. What time? Damn. I want to have a full hour for Q&A and we done it now. So I'm going to wrap this up quickly. So class enemies, here's the issue that I'm seeing within the black liberation struggle in the larger black community. Class consciousness is warped. And it's kind of hard because before, when there was strict racial hierarchies, white supremacy, there's no such thing as white supremacy. And we're gonna start using the appropriate language because language matters. The terminology, nomenclature, how you name title things dictates how you think about them. And how you think about things dictates how you engage it on the material in the material world. We have to stop saying white supremacy. We have to say white hegemony. We can say white domination. We have to stop saying white supremacist. We have to say white aggressor. White aggressor. We have to stop saying white privilege. We have to say white pathology. Now, I know this is stuff I have to go over and over again. And I'm not just saying this because I'm now on Black Power Media, because I say it on my own broadcast on Q4. We got to start calling shit what it really is, because if we don't call shit what it is, we won't think about it. We will not understand it. So, in a time where the racial divide and racial hierarchies were law, where black discrimination against black people was encoded by law, the understanding from within the black community was that you could only go so far within the systems and institutions of global white domination. Meaning, if you go back in time and you look at our prominent blacks of that era, whether it is in entertainment, in industry, in business, in politics, there was a ceiling. It's like Sammy Davis Jr., Louis Armstrong, Cab Calloway. If you look at these individuals who were extremely prominent during the Jim Crow era, they would come to a town and they would play in the biggest venues in that town. They couldn't eat in the restaurants where they were headlining. They had to come to us. They had to go to Ma Nell's. They had to go to Uncle Russ's chicken spot, Ma Nell's boarding house. They had to get, wasn't no white man that could drive, that was allowed to drive a Negro around. So they'd had to get car service from around the way. So there was a ceiling that no black could rise. Even back then, Miles Davis used to perform with his back to the audience. And people thought, oh, Miles Davis is so caught up in his music. He just didn't want. Miles Davis said, I would go to these segregated venues and perform, and I turn my back to the audience to as a protest, because at the same place I'm headlining, I can't get a drink at the bar. I can't grind up on a white woman. Some bullshit. And so in that era, there was some grounded understandings. And as Gil Scott Heron says, there's two types of unity. There's unity from within. Unity from within is unity that is grown out of love, solidarity, ideological alignment. That's unity from within. Unity of people create for themselves, amongst themselves. But then he said what he called barbed wire fence unity. There's a unity that comes from outside when other people put you all in the same box, whether you want to be there or not. So there's externally exposed unity. So even as back in the 90s, I remember there was this big thing. I moved to New York City in 1992. And at that time, there was this big uproar about cabs. And black people in New York, which I lived in the Midwest, wasn't no transit, you couldn't hail a cab. And everywhere I went, I started being around for the first time in my life, educated, articulate, established black people, right? Black people who didn't have housing subsidies, black people who never held a food stamp or had a food stamp card. And they were always like, these cabs. And I knew a wealthy, affluent black woman who had sued one of the cab companies because a cab tried to drive off and she grabbed the door and jumped in. A dignified black woman, Armani from head to toe. It goes through like 2-3 passports in a year, like travel the world. And she's being dragged by a cab and she climbs in that cab and is like, God damn it, you're going to take me to where I want to go. And I'm going to pay you and give you a handsome tip. And the guy said, no, I don't know. I'm out of business. So anyway, he called the police and said, this woman is inebriated. She jumped in my cab. Whoop, 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 whoop. And the cab driver, they went all the way to court. She got money and lawyers. She went to court and snitched. And she won the case and got a couple of $100,000 to throw on top of her $1 million. And she was telling me this thing about, these cab drivers. And one night I was out with this sister. I ain't gonna name names because she's in the entertainment industry, pretty prominent. This before. I knew this young lady. We went to a concert and it was Madison Square Garden. We left and it was about 2 a.m. and she wanted to hire a cab or a limo, take us back to Brooklyn. And every cab, zoom, 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 and to the point where the sister collapsed crying in the street. And thank God for, the gypsy cab, finally, a little gypsy cab, a legal cab driver. I think the guy had a Haitian accent, agreed to take us home. And the sister was like, I'm not getting in this illegal cab. But we eventually got us home that night, right? So anyway, that is unity. Every black person. I knew a millionaire. I knew an aspiring young high school student who was striving to make it in life. And I know dudes, 9-to-5 dudes and street cats. All of them were in the same box when it came to cabs. If you was black, You ain't getting a cab, especially in Midtown. You're not getting a cab. So that's externally, or Dr. John Henry Clark said that the racist cab drivers are the best Pan-Africans, because he understands that all these Africans are the same. I don't care if you're in a Brooks Brothers suit or you wearing hoodies and baggy jeans, or skinny jeans nowadays. Y'all the same. That's understanding. So that's unity imposed by the outside. And Gil Scott Heron said, black people will be unified. He's like, we don't stick together, talk all that shit. Gil Scott Heron said, we'll be unified. We'll be unified based on our love for each other, or we'll be unified by brick walls and barbed wire fences. Unity has to either come from within, or it will unjustly be exposed from the outside. So that was that era. But in this modern era, I remember when Kanye, kind of threw up in my mouth a little bit. Kanye, God, I hate Kanye's guts. When Kanye lost his $1 billion status, and he got kicked off the Forbes list, somebody said, that's one less black billionaire. And lamenting the fact that we have one less black billionaire, saying that that was a sign of regression for black people. So he'll look and see how many white billionaires there are. And so we got to get billion. White folks got billionaires. Black folks need billionaires. And that's equality. That's progress. So he's like, y'all out here celebrating the fact that we have one less billionaire. And I'm like, wow. In the post-civil rights era, black class consciousness is as important as ever. We have the masses of black people celebrating class enemies. And now there was a book called Beyond Freedom and Dignity that Dr. Bobby E. Wright gave credit for destroying the civil rights movement. White people attempted to repress black people for the purpose of exploiting black people. And they don't do it because we're black. They do it because we're white, because they are white and we are vulnerable. And white people initially wanted to try to use brute force, manipulation, and other techniques and strategies to repress and suppress black people for the purposes of hyper exploitation. And the text Beyond Freedom and Dignity said, listen, we're kind of beyond the water hoses, chains and whips, and these other overt means of repression. So we can't go to Africa and use gunboat diplomacy, and we can't use attack dog water hoses for a myriad of reasons. It's not just because they're more compassionate. The white people of today are no more compassionate than the white people of chattel slavery era, the colonial era, of the Jim Crow era. There are no more compassionate. They have not changed in their objectives. They have only amended their tactics and strategy. Their methodology has changed. Their goals and principles have remained consistent since the Greco-Roman era. Domination, exploitation, genocide, colonization, it's all the same. But they had advanced their techniques, they had advanced their technologies, they have advanced and further obfuscated their methods. And they're becoming more effective. They're extracting more with less effort. They're getting more for less. They're getting more from our communities, from our nations, from our continent, from our regions. They're getting more for less. Why? Because they have refined their tactics and strategies of exploitations, while our tactics and strategies of resistance have remained the same for 100 years. I asked this question, feel free to answer. Name something black people are fighting for today that we weren't fighting for 100 years ago. And the second question is, no shame in that, name a tactic or strategy that we're utilizing today that wasn't utilized 100 years ago. So as means of oppression become more sophisticated, our means of engaging and resisting remain stagnant. Imagine if we put as much creativity in our resistance to the systems and institutions of white dominations and resistance to capitalism as we put into sports. Bring that same level of innovation. Music. So, anyway, bringing that up to class, one of the new tactics in the Beyond Freedom and Dignity basically says you can give people freedom, you can give people dignity, and still maintain your domination over them, your illegitimate power, your illegitimate hold on wealth, while giving them as much freedom. So there was a time where we'd walk the streets, and if a white child came walking down that pathway, the black man, adult black men and women had to step off the street. There was a time where we weren't allowed to make eye contact with white people. And we thought, man, if we could look a white man in the eye, we didn't have to jump off the sidewalk, if we didn't have to go and stick our head in a barrel when we laughed in public, if black women by law didn't have to cover their heads up, then we'd be free. But now we're in this era, we could look a white person in the face and say, you honky, you Peckerwood. We got black leaders that call the white man the devil, not a devil, but the devil. And they living in penthouses where a prominent black man could get a dozen white women on his arm and parade down Beverly Hills Drive. Won't nobody touch him. Black athletes and everybody, because black folks, we can be bad as we want to be. Where our, by and large, relatively, I ain't pretending it's all good, but the power dynamics have not changed. The wealth, they've gotten more wealth from us. They've extracted more wealth and expanded their hold on the overall percentage of the wealth. How are we losing ground with all this freedom? We've got more liabilities with our freedoms than we had with the state repression. So I have to look at Beyond Freedom and Dignity. And one of the reasons, there's a myriad of reasons, and I ain't for victim blaming. Lord knows, I ain't for victim blaming. Everything's the white man's fault. Let me be on record. I blame white people. So, but my analysis does have to require me to call out some things black people are failing to do, or what I call maladaptations. And one of those things is we failed to, because it was always black versus them, us. But in the era where Beyond Freedom and Dignity, where they understood that says, hey, there was a time where white folks were afraid to have black billionaires. Like, they were like, well, we can't let a Negro get this thing. And there was a belief that white people had that if black people got access to certain positions in society, if black people got access to certain titles, if black people got access to certain resources, then we would have a natural inclination to vengeance. A really good example was Harold Washington, the first black mayor of Washington, D.C. And if you know anything about Chicago, it is an ethno state. I mean, there are warring ethnic factions. You got Ukrainian Village, you got the Polish neighborhoods, you got Greek Town, you got the Gold Coast, you got all these white ethnic groups that have certain amount of tensions. Even going back to Al Capone, everybody knows the Italian mob, the Irish mob, the Jewish mob. And so whenever you'd have a white, and see, black people say it's just white, it's all white. I have several talks that I gave on the myth of white unity. We think white people are so strong because they're unified. That's not the source of their strength. If unity was a source of strength, they'd be the weakest people in the world. They are not a unified race of whiteness. Whiteness is a play. Whiteness has its place. It is a tool that they use. But, like I say, everybody, we all know the N-word. But we never understand the racial slurs that are just amongst white people. The slurs that the Germans have for the French. The slurs that the French have for the Italians. The slurs the Italians have. They hate, man, ain't no love. I tell you. But let's go. But anyway, there was the understanding. If you get an Italian mayor of Chicago, then the contracts, the allocations, It's going to be an Italian. It's their time. You get an Irish, you get a Catholic mayor or a Catholic administration, then the Catholics get everything. So it ain't even white. They just ain't even enough. You got the Irish Catholics versus the Irish Protestant. You get a Protestant, and so when Harold Washington was elected, white people were up in arms because they were like, it's black people's time. It's black people's time. And we fought it. We had a good run. The white people in this city was like, we had a damn good run. We had a damn good run in this city. But now black folks are going to come and get revenge. Not only are black people going to allocate and target resources to the black community, it ain't even just money. It means shit like the snow getting plowed in this city. This is an Arctic city. This is the coldest place I ever lived in my life. And I don't just mean cold-blooded in terms of black vernacular, but I mean it's cold in terms of longitude and latitude. This place is miserably cold. I should point the camera out the window now. It's storming, miserable cold. And when these storms, snow, they plow all the white areas. They salt all the white areas while black folks are slipping and sliding. They know we ain't got insurance down here. They should start with the hood when it comes to this bad weather and road service. But I digress. So they were like, it's over for the whites until we retake power. And Harold Washington's, his political theme was he was going to be more than fair, which he wanted the white people to know that he held no animosity for past discrimination, past injustices, past Passovers where black people did not receive our cut of the state infrastructure funds, of our cut of power and influence. He said, no, I'm going to be righteous. I'm going to do it the right way. I'm going to do the Lord's work. And to this day, I come here and Harold Washington is a mythological creature. And I asked black people, what changed for black people under Harold? He said he was going to be more than fair. He had no intentions. He had no animosity, sought no vengeance, and was going to make sure that he had the most diverse cabinet and that it was the most equal cabinet. And no other mayor has done that before or since. And now we got our second black mayor. And the black folks like, oh yeah, she going to do something for us. The gay people. She gonna do something for us, and she's a woman, so she understands, boy, she's got like 3 layers of oppression. Black, gay, and a woman. Don't nobody, she's like the trifecta of like the Captain Planet of oppression. Captain Oppression. Like, what else could she, if she was disabled, and if she was an immigrant, she got all the top. So anyway, black folks really thought she was going to rep us. And even this woman who grew up she's got to know discrimination and oppression more than many of us. She's been repping hard for the white folks, repping hard for the multinational corporations, repping hard as hell for the police, and been shitting on black people since the first day she got in office. That is beyond freedom and dignity. They figured we miscalculated. We thought we had to keep black people on the outs and keep them economically repressed, because if they got some money and some power, they're going to come at our necks, because that's what we do with our money and power. And they found out that the wealthy blacks, if you give a black person some title and some money, they will not use that to set up their own faction of power. They will simply use it to enjoy and join you. So our black elites are allies of white elites, as opposed to leading factions within. Our leaders are their servants. And we turn on the award shows and we still dancing when we see black people get Golden Globes and Grammys. We looking at the Forbes list trying to find black names. We falling for the okie doke. But the thing is, we listen to Jay-Z talk about he sold crack to us. We listen to Jay-Z says he ain't even spending his rap money yet. He said, I sold so much crack to the black community, I'm still trying to work through my crack money. And we're like, J-Bay, #goals. We let Beyonce take the Black Panthers, black berets, black leather jackets to the goddamn Super Bowl at the moment where not only was the Super Bowl been racist, But this was at the height of the Super Bowl being exposed for covering up a pandemic, an epidemic of spousal abuse and domestic abuse. And they were like, listen, we in here for racism. We in here for domestic abuse. These athletes, these brain damaged CTE athletes go home and abuse their women, go to clubs and abuse women. So let's get a black and a woman, preferably all in one, 2 for 1, to come here and do a Black Power display. And you just like Doja Cat, all is forgiven. You put on a good show. I swear to God, I swear for God, if I could rap or sing, I can't dance. I got some decent dance moves. I'd sell out big time. The only reason I ain't a sellout is because I don't have the talent to get back in with my people. And I, for one, understand if you get ousted from the blacks, there really ain't no place of value to go. There are places for you to go, but they're shitty places. Believe you me, I've seen black people that got no status or standing within the hood, and they are all miserable. I don't care how much money they got. But believe you me, if I ever sit down and write a dope rhyme with a catchy hook, ain't no, watch out. But anyway, so class enemies, and we understand this rags to riches story, this mythology, this rag to riches thing. This is what we don't focus on. We know Jay-Z came from Marcy Projects. He busted some rhymes, sold some crack, became a billionaire. So he's rags to riches. Yeah, we should support that. That's a good role model. But what I never hear anybody talk about is sustaining wealth. It's not enough to get the bag in the United States. Somebody could go online right now and give $1 million to Black Power Media. Somebody could go to my Cash App and give me $1 million. Speaking to the universe, putting that vibrational frequency out there. Somebody could give Bro.Diallo $1 million. He said to the universe. Somebody could give Bro.Diallo $1 million. And the second I get that $1 million, tomorrow, by this time tomorrow, that $1 million in terms of what it could purchase would depreciate. And then the third day, it will be less than it was on the first. And 20 years from now, that $1 million could have the purchasing power that's less than half of what it is today. Right? Right? So peep that. And so if you get the bag, the first thing that any financial advisor would do, the first thing that all these black people talk, these black people, oh, the Jews run the industry. Ice Cube said it before, and then as if a black person get rich, and then a Jewish man jumps out the tree and puts them in the headlock. Sign here. They go looking for these Jewish people. Claude Anderson exposed them. Claude Anderson went to these rich, wealthy black people and says, hey, I got this powernomics scheme, how we can do basically self-reparations, how we can build black economic status and power and don't need nothing from white folks, but to get out of our way and stay out of our face. And they all said, I don't fuck with nothing black. If it's black, you come to me, I'll give money to B'nai B'rith. I'll get you. Look at, man, listen, don't get me started. But that sounds like a choice. These people enter into voluntary contracts and then want to run to the hood and have us have sympathy. So anyway, you get the bag as a black person. Somebody gives Bro.Diallo $1 million. Just let that vibrate for a second. I'll see if it works, the secret. And what I would have to do if I was a bootlicking Uncle Tom sellout, if I was a class enemy, because immediately I moved from being working class, poor, in solidarity with 98% of the black people, and I move up. Me being a socialist, as soon as I got that money, I'd redistribute it, and I'd come up with redistributive projects so that I could stay with the people. I'm not going to sit on no $1 million. That's me. That's why I'm not as sharp as these other cats. But what you have to do, securing wealth is just step one. What we ignore is sustaining wealth. Because this is a fiat economy, which means the money depreciates aggressively and rapidly as time progresses. So if you want to be a millionaire, it's not enough to have $1 million. You have to sustain that money. And the rappers like Michael Jordan, for instance, he's given away, literally donated more money to various charities and organizations, none of them black or about black power, but various white philanthropic. He's given away literally all of his Jordan money, all of his Chicago Bulls ball chasing basketball money. That's nothing. That's just entry. That's just to get you through the door. Because where's the real money? Ain't no real money in rapping. Ain't no real money in ball chasing. Ask Obama. Ain't no real money in being president of the goddamn United States. Even Trump said, I'm going to lose money if I get elected president. Which is a lie, because that's a different story. But if he was a true billionaire and a true businessman, that is absolutely true. Money comes when you get that initial bag, let's say. You have to aggressively, deliberately, and unceasingly expand and grow that wealth. And you ain't going to be hot forever on the mic. You ain't going to be able to duck them balls forever. You ain't going to stay in office forever. So you have to go and do what they say, invest. You have to create what they call an investment portfolio. And let me tell you where you have to invest. Number one, top industry, weapons. Basically, I can run down the details, but as a wealthy black person who intends to remain within the status of a wealthy black person, you have to support, embrace, and contribute to the systems and institutions of global white domination. If the United States fails to maintain its domination over Africa's resources, over the regions of the Caribbean and Latin America, if AFRICOM and SOLCOM fails, if the U.S. nuclear arsenal goes offline, if the U.S. support for genocidal oligarchs in the Middle East and Africa, if Africa's puppet proxy rulers are taken out of power, if the systems and institutions of white domination collapse, you're done. So every single black millionaire is an enemy to the interest. If you are a black person that says, listen, I want justice and freedom. I don't want people starving. I want everyone. Or if you pro-black, I want all black people to have the resources to live a dignified life. I do not want the ecosystems destroyed. I don't want ecosystems polluted. I don't support this system of mass extinction. I don't want food commodified so that we produce more. We throw away 40% of all food produced. We produce enough food to feed everybody on the planet, and still a quarter of the food is left over. I don't want to see people homeless when there's enough housing stock. If you do not like the state of the world as it is now, identify the people who profit from it. Dr. Amos Wilson said, if there is a persistent problem in your community, in your life, or around the world, you don't look at who suffers, you look at who profits. And all of these black millionaires, even if they put on a Black Lives Matter t-shirt, or if they standing on stage with the parents of Trayvon Martin, if they go on to Africa doing free concerts, if they go to Cuba, walking the streets of Cuba with a Cuban cigar, doing all this supposedly progressive shit, they are Trojan horses. Every rich black person should be looked at with contempt and suspicion. And the only way for a rich black person to have solidarity with the true just struggles and liberation of African people is for them to commit class suicide. Does that mean they have to become homeless? No. Does that mean they can't enjoy the fruits of their labor? No. But the reality is, it's not even about that. It's not even about, hey, I want to be able to go to exotic places. You don't need tens of millions of dollars to go to exotic places. You don't need it. Even Beyonce said, I got more money than I can spend. So we understand, and which I can't accept, black people celebrating other rich black men. People are like, oh, you Diallo. I get accused of this all the time. Bro.Diallo wants us to be poor. No. You're an idiot. Because what is the source of poverty? Capitalism and capitalists. They create poverty. Not us who are opposed to the capitalists and capitalism. Every billionaire is a parasite. Every billionaire is the representation of the theft of the wages of millions of other people. Nobody's done $1 billion worth of work. The only way to become a billionaire or a multi-millionaire is to extract the labors and the production of other people. And how do they even determine who's worthy? There was a time, this shit about who makes money and rich, that shit is arbitrary as fuck. It's just made up. There was a time where athletes were middle class or lower middle class job. In the early stages, you know, the Oilers and the Packers, what is it? Green Bay Packers. Those were they were like corporate. These ball clubs were like, you know how your corporate baseball team, you had to work a real job. You wasn't about to be a millionaire back in the Shakespearean era. Being an actor was a low-paying job. It's not real. Y'all act like it came down from glory that a ball chaser. It just had a dude come and tell me, crazy motherfucker, like, oh, they need to pay, who did he say? They need to pay MMA fighters more money. They need to pay these basketball players, WNBA more money. Poor and working class people are asking for more money for black elites. And I never heard nobody say, basketball players make too much money. CEOs make too much money. They don't deserve all that money. That money needs to go to the people who earned it. All profit. I hear black people running around talking about taxation is theft. No, profit is theft. Profit is what you generate from stealing from other people. Profit is theft. You can run businesses without profit. You can operate a world without profit. You can operate the world without CEOs. But I digress. I'm getting off topic. What I was talking about, these class enemies. By default, any wealthy black person that seeks to sustain or expand their wealth is automatically a class enemy. I don't care how many schools they open. Y'all dance in the street behind LeBron James's school. I ain't heard no evaluation. It's gone. Now y'all on to talking about Michael Blacksmith's motorcycle school. And y'all don't even ask what they gonna teach these kids. Are they going to create a whole, because that's what Oprah Winfrey literally opened the school and says, I want to create a whole new class of black elites. I'm going to separate them from the people, put them above and beyond the people. And when they graduate, they're going to function as overlords of the people. She didn't say it, but that's what she did. She did say she wanted, but I digress. So we talked about the class enemy. And if you think I'm hating, then you are absolutely right. What is in his school? LeBron James's school? But hey, don't get me started on, don't play with it. Okay, let's keep going. So that's class enemies. But then we have wannabes. And on wannabes, and I'm going to do this real fast and open up a Q&A. Okay, did we see the curriculum? Have you seen what? But I digress. Let's go. Wannabes are you black people who strive to be rich. You hustle and grind black people. You black people that says, listen, I am with the masses. I am with the working classes. I am with the poor, but I aspire to step on your heads. We all talk about the crab in the barrel. Everybody focuses on the crab pulling them down, but you don't focus on stepping on their heads. So it's okay to step on other people to get ahead, but it's not okay to grab at the ankles of the people stepping on you. That's not okay. It's not okay. So I never understood that concept. And you got crabs at the lower part of the barrel. You got crabs at the lower part of the barrel who are mad at other crabs at the lower part of the barrel because they're not allowing the crabs at the higher part of the barrels to step on them. So to me, the biggest villain, the most evil crab in the barrel is not the one getting stepped on, but the one doing the stepping. This crab thing, and you know, Dr. Jared Ball likes to talk about the barrel. We should focus on the crab fisherman, the man who made the barrel and put us in the barrel in the first place. But man, okay, yeah, that's all good, but that person is like God. It's unseen. It's a force like capitalism. Black people really believe like capitalism came from on high. And I said we should abolish capitalism, and he was like, "What are we gonna do if there's no capitalism? Like, the sun's not gonna shine. You know, there'll be no photosynthesis. There'll be no oxygen. The water cycle would stop. Like, we can't live without capitalism when capitalism is the least life-sustaining thing. This is what's destroying our ability to live. It's not creating opportunities and abilities. But I digress. So you wannabes are you blacks who strive to be in it, to be class traders. And we encourage them. We had that slutty vegan sister who's in trouble because she's acting like a capitalist. She did a Rick Ross, talk all this black business stuff, and black people get into black business and act just like white people. So if the only thing black about the business is whoever's name is on the paperwork, but you're still creating unsafe working condition, not properly compensating your workforce, not paying, into and reinvesting, who cares? So where am I? So you wannabes, you black strivers, you should check yourself. And here's the reality. And these are white folks' stats, not mine. How to operate a world without CEO and profit. Do you know even white capitalists say that? Someone wants to know how we operate a world without CEOs and profit. Do you know that there were no CEOs or there was no profit on the continent of Africa until European invasion? Do we not know that capitalism, even by white people? I just had a European researcher tell me capitalism, this shit is like 300 years old. When Black history, even conservative estimates, our human history and civilization and human economic systems go back 30,000 years. That is so ingrained that we think we need management and CEOs. But I digress. We talk about you wannabes. Wannabes are in many ways as bad as the established Negroes, because if you are born in the United States, the vast majority of people die in the class that they're born into. So if you're born working class, you're more likely than not going to die working class. And social media, but the overall media and myth of America as a place of opportunity where anyone who's willing to sacrifice and work can get rich is an absolute myth. Most people who go on to strive to be wealthy, the vast majority of you fail and will fail. You will fail. And this is an affirmation, and this is a positive thing, because what you should do in the most successful movements, especially in our community, but even amongst white people, is not to uplift yourself and try to elevate out of your class, but to elevate the status of your class. So if you are working class, then it is more rewarding in material rewards and psychological, emotional rewards for you to elevate your class. So to win concessions and to liberate and empower your group is more rewarding and has greater potential for success than elevating out of your group as your group stays. And I know they talk this, you got a middle class mentality, you got a working class mentality, you got a slave mentality. But these striving people, the people up there and the people who believe, who have gassed themselves up to believe they will get there, you have a parasite mentality, because that's the only way you can make it. And if you don't understand that you have to exploit the labor and resources of other people in order to get rich, you definitely ain't getting rich. What most wealthy, successful Black people, they understand it, but they also understand they cannot articulate this reality. So if you wannabes who truly believe that capitalism is rooted in competition, hard work, and willingness to sacrifice and self-discipline, you ain't gonna make it anyway. So I ain't gonna ever have to look at you as a class enemy. You just a wannabe fool. But the intelligent wannabes, right, as E-Rock from the Coup said, if you want to get paid, you got to sell your people out. And then you have the groupies, people who are not necessarily striving to get wealthy, people who are not necessarily wealthy, but the people who look up to the wealthy, who hashtag the wealthy, who will go online and defend the wealthy. And like I said, if you had asked me maybe 5 years ago, what is a groupie? And I say it's some young girl in a mini skirt screaming, ripping her clothes off, some girl throwing panties on stage, that's a groupie. But you brothers have learned to me Ain't no groupie like a middle-aged black man. Woo! I have had brothers, not just online. I've engaged them in the street. They come up talking to me. The real groupies, it ain't panties being thrown on stage. It's old raggedy boxer drawers. These black men and their vicarious relationships with these black athletes, these black rappers, these black men in power and status, even if they're in the midst of, I just do the test. Think of whatever bubblegum pop star that's out here today. Don't ask me to name one. I'll get my son in here to tell y'all whoever's the hottest heartthrob. Whoever is the modern day Bow Wow, who was the hot dude when I was younger. And you go on and diss that person and say that person can't sing, that person can't dance. And then you go on there and say, Ice Cube is not a revolution. Just say something minor. Say Dave Chappelle is good at telling jokes, but beyond that, he's worthless to the black community. Woo! Middle-aged black men go hard in the paint. They are the real groupies. They are the real groupies that support these prominent Negroes, even though you can show evidence that these prominent Negroes were handpicked by our oppressors and sustained by our oppressors. And the moment they go afoul of our oppressors, Kanye, they get the rug. Like Sheun Kuti said, Kanye West didn't have $1 billion. He had 1 billion white promises. And we still think they power. I can't tell you, in 444 era, Jay-Z, and people telling me, how dare you? I don't have a right to speak on these people. All right? Cat tell me I'm mad because I can't rap. And I'm mad that I can't rap, but what that got to do with my larger analysis? He was right about that. I didn't tell him he was, but he was right about it. I was mad I can't rap, but what that got to do with my class analysis? So groupies are probably the saddest. I'm sympathetic to the groupies. I'm annoyed often, but I'm most sympathetic to the groupies. So let me tell you, you can celebrate black people. Now, I know the feeling. We got a black world heavyweight champion, or some black performer gets the Oscar, or Abbott Elementary sweeps the Golden Globes. It's okay for us to applaud that. But we have to understand, as Karis once said, the award shows are for pimps and hoes and every other hypocrite to show off their clothes. We have to understand that's neither here nor there for the interest of African people. And our main goal needs to be collective liberation, not individual elevation within the systems and institutions of global white domination. And black people of prominence and status are not to be trusted, are not to be embraced, and are not worthy of our support. I say all the time, if we can't be up with you, we should not be down with you. Meaning that a lot of these artists, when they are really trending and that they ain't got nothing for us. Ain't got nothing for us. When the system embraces them, but Negroes are disposable to this system. I remember Dave Chappelle said he doesn't want to be Malcolm X or Martin Luther King because they died penniless, which isn't true. But let's just pretend they did. Does he know how many comedians died penniless? Red Fox, one of the greatest comedians of all time, of his era. All he had left when he died was the 2 dogs. And he was literally being interviewed and says, listen, the IRS took everything I have. I'm just thankful they left me with 2 dogs. Richard Pryor, where's this whole thing of the penniless revolution, the impoverished revolutionary? As if most entertainers don't die broke too. Are James Brown's children and grandchildren living lavish? So, it is got nothing to do with dying broke. They don't want to challenge the oppressed. They know where their bread is butter. When Chappelle said he don't want to die penniless, that's why he doesn't want to be Malcolm X. It ain't got shit to do with the penniless. It has everything to do with appeasing the people who butter his bread, because he already got enough money where he don't have to work again. And I'm sure he's well invested in Raytheon, Boeing, and all these other fossil fuel industries. That's what I was going to say, that if you are a black elite, you have to put money in weapons. You have to put money in fossil fuels. You have to invest in the apparatus of the state. The war machine is where the money resides. Where the money resides is in sustaining imperialism. prisons, private prisons, and it ain't just, you don't have to invest in the private prisons. If you invest in any multinational corporation that has contracts with private prisons, if you look at the research of what's that name? In-game. Derek Jensen. He talks about every single multinational corporation. Every single multinational corporation is a welfare hole. There's not one industry. You name an industry. Automobile, airline, offshore fishing, obscure industry. There's not one industry that would survive without capital, without government inputs and support. And that support comes in straight, cold, hard cash. Elon Musk is a welfare hole. Every single, and they got my grandmother ashamed to take food stamps. Name an industry that is not directly and heavily dependent. There is no such thing as capitalism. Everything is socialist. I can't remember the guy's name. Don't even ask me to. But he says basically all economies are socialist. Capitalism is just a extraction machine. Nothing is produced through capitalism. Capitalism is just a method of extracting and concentrating wealth, but nothing is produced through socialism. I have to find that chapter in Derek Jensen's books where he talked about all these industries are welfare holes. How innovative. Even if I just run a restaurant. Then the food you order, unless you're growing the food, but even then, the electricity that powers your shit. And we think we need CEOs, we need these thinkers. If we don't give Elon Musk $100 billion, then he won't fly us to Mars. He won't give us his shitty cars. He won't burrow under our cities and create high-speed tunnels. We have to give him $1 billion. If we don't give Jay-Z $1 billion, he won't spit his anti-black raps for us. Well, it's a trick. One more trick. Groupies. So don't be a class enemy. Don't be a wannabe. You can be an entrepreneur, but you have to have a redistributive mentality. You cannot take profits. You can receive the earnings. But even let's say you're a savvy dude, like you can't help but get money. You just that dude, that sister, you just so creative. But then that increases your obligation, because if you have large amount of money, that means you profit from a large amount of exploitation. So you should go that hard. You got to Bob Marley, Fela Kuti your shit. You got to Muhammad Ali your shit. You got to be a voice and out front. I guess that's that. Class enemies, wannabes, and groupies. Don't find yourself in that. Be class conscious. Be a class antagonist. Engage in, where we say race first. Race first. Class second. Ideology third. Methodology fourth. It's not, you can't just rest on race no more. In the post-Jim Crow era, it ain't enough to be black. Or that shit, it's a Ray Plain jar. I'm voting for everybody black. The hell I is. No, I ain't. I ain't voting for everybody black. I'm not rooting for Obama. Obama just dropped a gentrification bomb. He dropped, all the bombs he dropped, drone bombs he dropped all over the world, the Horn of Africa. All the bombs he dropped all over the world. He just put a gentrification bomb. That goddamn Obama Center. Every day I go over there, it's getting wider. I literally avoid. That was one of my favorite part of town. They had this Japanese garden over there. They had wonderful green space, free and accessible. He came and bulldozed half the damn South Side. And when the black community said, can you give us some guarantees that we won't be priced out? Can you give us some contracts and write some shit down that the housing and when all these, the Obama Center is not a presidential library. I'd love to have a presidential library, a place of learning, of academia, where all Obama's records would be. So I can go and dig up more dirt on him. But that's not what he's giving us. But don't get me started. This stuff is hitting home. It affects me. NIMBY, not in my backyard. I never thought I'd be one of those people. Not in my backyard. I'm one of those guys when the Obama Center. But anyway, Obama's a class, but Obama told us to trust him. I guess, man. I want black people to be class conscious because I see so many committed, I see so many down black people. But this mythology of the entrepreneurial spirit of black people, you know, we got people like Ice Cube, a race trader sellout, going around telling us about entrepreneurialism, and we think black people earning the bag or represent us, or they up in the boardrooms, or they're up in the halls of the legislator representing us. So class consciousness is absent from so many elements of the struggle, and we need to get stronger on it. I mean, cancel culture is a myth, but I wish we could make it real. You know, when that prominent rapper said that I was being a gatekeeper because I said, you know, I criticized some things he said about Africa and him and his peers and Dave Chappelle in Africa. Said I'm a gate. Boy, I wish I was a gatekeeper. I wish I was, but yeah, we should start gatekeeping. Anyway, let's open up for a couple of questions. I only got a little time left. I'm sorry. But you know, we can open this up for questions. You just type your question in the comment. I can't do but shout out to Black Power Media. Support and rock with Black Power Media. Support Bro.Diallo at Bro.Diallo across the social medias. I tell you, like, Black Power Media is on some Wu-Tang shit. So I got my own side independent hustle, and then I'm with the crew. So it's all that. And I'm the method man. What? So any questions? That rapper who shall not be named. I'll tell you who the rapper is. Fuck it, it's Talib Kweli. And here's the thing. When I see shit on social media from prominent people, I don't usually really talk. I just put like that raccoon emoji and I keep it moving. But I made a statement, and this is the problem. He pinned my statement to the top. So I was just hearing from people that normally I fly under the radar. I'm relatively obscure. I'm relatively unknown. You know, I'm relatively unknown. But he made a post, and I hate reliving this because it's been annoying. I hate going, like, I'll go to my Instagram and that little red number might be 3 or 4. And then in the last week, I go to that little red numbers in double and triple digits. Like, goddamn. So he pinned my post to the top of his image with him, Dave Chappelle, Sway, and all these prominent black people. And so all these people coming at me, telling me I can't rap when I never said I could rap. Well, I did write a rhyme to Battle Common. I can't say it in case me and Common ever do have a battle. I do have one rap to Battle Common. I wrote it like over a decade ago. I don't know why. I just thought that I might have the opportunity to battle Common. But I'm a Common. I like Common. But other than that, I can't rap. Oh, here's a question. An actual question. But anyway, Talib pinned my post to the top and going back and forth. I haven't commented in weeks, but I still get notifications. People bumping heads. When did I become class conscious? Shit. I hate to say this. And I ain't gonna lie. I literally became class conscious after reading the Communist Manifesto. And I know that's corny as fuck. But I wasn't really class conscious. I was like the rest of y'all, man. I see a black person make it. I see a black person getting it. And I really did think, you know, in black individual progress translated into black collective progress. And I see a black person with money, a black person with status, a black person elected or appointed to high office, or a black CEO. And I was like, damn. And I was probably like 19, because I became race conscious at like 14. You know, my parents, even though they were addicted to drugs and in and out of jail, and my parents struggled in the Reagan era. They fell in all every trap that Reagan set for us. My parents fell into, but bless their hearts, they're still here today trying to make it, still in recovery. But so I became, but they were very race conscious people. My dad would write me these long letters from prison, and so I was race conscious at a relatively young age, politically conscious. But I was like, I wanted everybody black to win, and any sign of black progress, any sign of relief black people had in the system. And I was assigned the Communist Manifesto, and I was thinking Karl Marx, you know, and I came up in the Midwest. And I remember when I was assigned this book, the professor said, don't leave this book on your dashboard. He said, don't leave the book in plain view. If you have as you read this book in my Western Civ class, he said, keep it on your don't put it on your dashboard. Don't put it anywhere that could be seen, because he literally in the past, when he assigned this reading, he had people's cars that were damaged, and he had people like reading this in cafes and public spaces, and people stepping to them, people stepping to him like, what are you, some kind of commie? And so he literally gave this whole disclaimer when he assigned us to buy and read the Communist Manifesto. And I don't know if you've read it. It's not even a book, it's a pamphlet, but it literally, it's like prophetic, it's prophecy. Like the book, if you didn't know who wrote it and when it was written, and you read that book even now, so anyway, I read the Communist Manifesto and I'm like, wow. And so not really gave me class consciousness, but it made me pay attention to the class analysis of the Black scholars I was reading, because I kind of want to listen to or read over the tearing down white folks and building up Black folks element of African scholarship. But then I begin to see it or identify or key in on the class analysis when you read Amos Wilson, or you read Dr. John Henry Clark, or even when you read about how our previous Black leaders were all accused of being controlled by or agents of the communist state because the civil rights movement started happening during the Cold War, and there was these old pictures of every Black person that had anything critical to say about the state of race in the United States was accused of being a communist or a communist sympathizer or a pinko. Let me see. Sorry, but and so there was like these billboards. Like, look at this. Somebody come look at this. You look at this. You see, Martin Luther King is a communist. Martin Luther King Jr., a communist. And they had these billboards around white America. Like, this was a communist training school. And so before, when I said that, I kind of thought to myself, damn, but it was everywhere. He was constantly called and hounded by, accused of being a communist. So anyway, I knew that, but I kind of glossed over it until I actually read Marx. And shout out to Marx. I'm not an anti-Marxist. I think Marx's, dialectical and historical materialism is fairly accurate. It's really quality analysis. And ultimately, I think that Karl Marx was trying to humanize Europeans. And he thought that if you can humanize their economic or material relations, you can humanize them psychologically. You can get rid of warfare and hierarchies and oppression. So communism is really about humanizing inhumane peoples and inhumane cultures and inhumane systems. But I digress. I read the Communist Manifesto, and then I read Kwame Ture in Class Struggle in Africa. But I hate to say it, it sounds corny. I wish I could make up something else, but I got assigned, and which is like, isn't that what the Republicans say about these universities? I was a Black radical before I went into, ask anybody that went to Bishop Hogan High School in Kansas City. I was a Black radical long before I went to college, but it was literally like my first year in undergrad, and I read the Communist, corny as hell. I gotta invent another story. Delete that footage. I need to come, but that's it. But that introduced me to really understanding class, because we lived in a Western European, but that's about when I would say I became like really class conscious, and where my class consciousness began to expand and reach the level of my race or ideological political consciousness, probably like maybe 94, 95, maybe 96, maybe. So, but it came later than it should have. But the real, like, Kwame Ture, who E. Franklin Frazier, Black Bourgeoisie, Malcolm X's articles on his traveling, when Malcolm X journaled about his traveling, he talked quite a bit about what the affluent Blacks, when he went to Africa and his travels, he spoke directly to how the affluent Blacks were moving under colonialism, and how Black expats, wealthy Blacks from the United States, or prominent Blacks from the United States and UN, how they operated in relationship or juxtaposition toward the Black masses. So that kind of made me start paying attention to that element of the struggle, internal class struggles. Because I always knew the black elites the white elites were scum, but it took me a while to realize that the black elites are scum too. Not the same scum, it's a different type of scum, but scum nonetheless. Okay, let's take one more question and I gotta get out of here. I don't want to go over time. I don't want to get in trouble on my first Black Power individual podcast. Okay, here's the second question, and we'll get out of here. Tony Ballard asks, Diallo is right though. Oh, this is a comment. Okay, that's a comment. But he said I was right. Yeah, I knew it was a comment. I'm just playing it off. It started off with Diallo is right. You start your comment off with like that, I'm gonna click on it and put it on the screen. So you can be like, Diallo is right, and then say all horrible things about me. I ain't gonna read past Diallo is right. I thought that was a question. But I didn't care. I think every black person has a touch of class consciousness. Okay, no more questions. All right, so we can wrap this up, B. All right, this is the first. I'm thinking of calling this Cream, the Bro.Diallo, Q&A. Caucasians rule everything around me. So I'm thinking of that's like a working title. Because I'm not really creative. My radio broadcast here in Chicago, my local broadcast, that's called Bro.Diallo Show. What do you want from me? The other Bro.Diallo Show is a name. Okay. That's it. So will this be Cream with Bro.Diallo and Cream and Q&A? Diallo avoids questions. I don't see your question. If you can see the cotton picking thing, it's go scrolling. Anyway. Nothing but positive energy. Anyway, by the next week, I'm going to be a millionaire. Y'all heard how many times I spoke that into existence? If Oprah's right. Oh, this is even more better. Caucasians ruin everything around me. That's even a more better one. I stole that. I'm a sucker MC. I stole that from Wise Intelligent. Shout out to Wise Intelligent, my favorite is rapper. He said crackers rule everything around me, but I don't want to get kicked off social media by being a reverse racist. So he actually said that decades, 20 years ago, he said that back when the Cream song came out, but he said saltines rule everything around me. But I figured I'd be more diplomatic and more scientific and say Caucasians ruin everything around me. Okay, here's a question. It's time to go though. How do we get notifications about your show? Because I'm not getting them. Well, you subscribe to Black Power Media to get the Cream Show, and then you'll get me on Wednesday nights and on Friday the Earn Your Liberation Show. On Mondays for the Q4 radio program, you can go to q4.org. If you're not in the Chicago area, they broadcast all over the world, but it's a low power underground scuzzy little radio station. But you can go to the Q4 website if you're outside of the west side or south side of Chicago. You can go to @Diallo Kenyatta. You can go to Diallo Kenyatta on YouTube or other stations to find me there too. But I don't know. I get some people say they don't get the notifications. They subscribed and become members and done all that, and they don't get the notifications. I'm not sure why. How do you deal with traders in the same class? I have what is called the new Negro self-exposure protocol. And this is the last question. The way you deal with it in our status, we expose, isolate, and expel. That means if someone demonstrates, you have to have material evidence, either through their words or actions. So you have to share that you have to snitch, you have to share. So if someone's out here disparaging black people or coordinating or cooperating or doing something that is to the detriment to the interest of black people, you have to have some beyond how you feel about them. Because these people I don't like. There are individuals I ain't got nothing for. I don't like Dr. Umar. And But if I'm going to come on and I make fun of Dr. Umar, but if I'm going to make accusations, it has to be based in evidence, something I can back up. So I could say I don't like Umar, and I could say, but like when Umar went online and doxed his baby mama and doxed his mother-in-law, I don't know if he was married to the woman, but the mother of his baby mama or mother-in-law, and told his pretty whacked out followers where they could find them, and then encouraged his whacked out followers to go and harass his baby mama. Now that's something he did, and he posted publicly. It's not my speculation, so I can use that in terms of calling him out. And I can say, well, I don't like him because of his statements. And I have to say, these are statements he made, not what I believe he believes or how I feel about him. So you got to have to expose them. Same thing with Irritated Genie. And his wife calling out a long history of spousal, emotional, and physical abuse up into and including threatening her life with a gun. And so that's material evidence, his wife's testimony, public testimony. And so you expose that, you share it, say, hey, you know, Farrakhan and his relationship with the Scientology, something he publicly professed, his relationship to the Moonies, the Universalist Church, and other predatory cults, when the things he said about justifying sexual predation. And people will say, I'll say, well, Farrakhan blamed mothers for fathers molesting their daughters because the mothers gain weight and develop bad attitudes, which provokes the fathers to look towards their daughter for sexual gratification and support, emotional support. And people are like, Farrakhan didn't say that. And then I posted it. Like, here it is, him on tape. And then they were like, oh, you took it out of context. So even having the facts will not change people. Or when I told Talib Kweli that Dave Chappelle said that he doesn't want to be Malcolm X because Malcolm X died penniless, he said, prove it. And so I posted it, the interview he did with David Letterman, word for word, like, here it is. And then people came and was like, you should have posted the whole interview. And I'm like, you could literally go and find, it's David Letterman. And my next guest needs no introduction. Why do I have to post? I'm just posting this. And you could go watch it and come tell me the context I'm missing. Because he only digs deeper. Because David Letterman tried to be like, oh, no, don't be like that, Dave. Come on. And Dave was like, hell no, I said it. I said what I said. But I digress. So expose. Share your evidence of a person you are condemning or an organization. Sometimes there are good people in bad organizations. Lord knows. So if it's an organization or a prominent individual within the community that is you tell it, then you isolate them. That means stop inviting them to the cookout. Cancel them, as they say. But like, if I'm putting together something here in Chicago, there's certain people I won't welcome or invite. And there's certain invitations I won't accept. Certain people I'm not going to stand with as an individual and organizational level. And then you expel them, meaning if they held positions, you expel them and you tell them, based on these behaviors, this track record, these offenses, I can't work with that person, and either they go or I go. I mean, my wife has done that in her professional and grassroots organization. I've had to do that in professional and grassroots organization. So you expose, isolate, expel. I call that the new Negro self-exposure protocol. So in absence of our own legal system, in absence of our own enforcement agencies, in absence of trying to threaten and harass people, but to deal with problematic individuals or groups in the most productive way that does not derail our larger efforts. I've kind of developed this, and you can add to or expand on it as you see fit, but it's really expose, isolate, and expel. And if the hood ain't rocking with you, sometimes it's like Dr. John Henry Clark said, it's better to march into hell alone than to heaven with a bunch of fools. So when Dr. Umar, which everybody knows I have issues with, came to the DeSable Museum and people were calling, go confront Dr. Umar. We'll buy your ticket. We'll give you $35. I'm like, I'm not doing that. For what? You know, I'm not going there and put money in dude's pocket and make this spectacle. Because, you know, when somebody's really unprincipled, uncouth, they thrive off of that shit. I say all the time, never enter a shit eating contest with the shit eater, because even if you win, you lose. So it's the new Negro self-exposure protocol. I've written whole essays and more details about that in NESP. So just follow the new Negro self-exposure protocol and it will help you navigate the madness. Yes? Okay, I got to wrap this up. It's past 9 o'clock. I'll wrap it up. Thank you for everyone joined. Please support Black Power Media. Please support Bro.Diallo. Just in case, I tell you, if you support me and me speaking millionaire status into the universe does not work, I'm going to need y'all's support. So anyway, shout out to Black Power. Shout out to all the brothers and sisters that have been supporting me through all this time. I really look forward to building and getting further entrenched into the Black Power Media apparatus, Black Power Media conglomerate, the Black Power Media Cooperative. So anyway, I'll check y'all Friday. We're going to have a legend in the African-centered movement, Dr. Molefe Asante, on the Earn Your Liberation with Dr. Ball, Geechee, and of course yours truly, Bro.Diallo. So I'll see y'all Friday morning, and then Monday morning is back to Q4 Radio and the Bro.Diallo Q4 Radio broadcast. So there's a lot going on, but ain't a damn thing happening. Thanks for everyone to tune in, and I'll see y'all Friday morning. Peace.